Welcome, everyone, to this month's webinar with Vosik AI. Thank you to those of you that are on time and or early for our regular webinar. My name is Brandon Savage, and I'm the head of solution enablement here at Vosik AI. We've got a real treat today in our webinar content and some topics that we think are really valuable given what's happening in today's world, particularly with artificial intelligence. Our title of today's webinar is From Zero to AI in 4 Weeks. Get started with AI to drive CLV improvements. We're going to talk about our 4-week AI implementation trial and how it can help you to, especially at this time of the year when you're looking forward to 2026 plans, to potentially identify where the use cases and value can be in your business by applying AI. So we'll start off with introductions today. As I mentioned, my name is Brandon Savage. I've spent over 2 decades in operational roles in recurring revenue, subscription-based businesses. And I was a customer of Vosik AI, and that was where I first met Vasu, who is our chief data scientist and co-founder of the company. Vasu, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a timely topic, Brandon, and everyone who's on the webinar. It is timely because of how everyone is excited about AI and all of that started a couple of years ago. And now, the success stories, the real success stories that translated into millions of dollars in value, and the ones that are struggling are both coming out. So on this webinar, I'm super excited about sharing, the lessons learned and what we are doing about to make sure that our audience have a try before you buy opportunity. Brandon?
Thanks, Vasu. So as we look at our webinar from last month, we actually shared a quote from the State of AI in Business 2025. This is from the MIT's Nanda Institute, where we talked about how 95% of AI projects failed, and that the success seems to be determined by the approach, not necessarily the quality of the model. And we have seen that in our experience with our partners and how we've been able to not just provide a model, that's actually one of the easiest parts, but that we've been able to help guide customers through the process. And there was another quote that came out from Bain Capital Ventures over the last month that reaffirms this underlying theme. Sanya Oja said, "In enterprise AI, the model is the easy part. The hard part, and the difference between a demo and getting to value, has 4 steps: framing the right problem, building the data plumbing, designing the organization, and then bringing people along." And this quote sung to our souls because we know this has been part of what we've done as a business and how we've seen success. And that success has been recognized this year by the CMS Wire Impact Awards. We received the gold award for best use of AI in customer experience. That recognizes not just our ability to have a good model, but to create a great customer experience and to see value from the investment that you put into this type of solution. As we look at our proof of value trial, and Vasu will be talking more about this today, it focuses on 3 areas where we will do first some planning with you and your team to identify what are the use cases that make the most sense for your business to implement AI, to review the data sources that have signal to be able to provide predictive value, and then to define what the success of this proof of value trial would be. As we receive that data from you as a company, we spend 4 weeks and we're able to go in and retrain our models to score every one of your customers for risk and revenue. And then at the end of those 4 weeks, we do an executive review with you where we will highlight the best opportunities for ROI, to look at the high and low risk predictions for your customers, and review that with you and your executive team, along with a business case to show here is the value you can expect to get by taking operational decisions on your individual customers with an implementation roadmap that we will provide. So with that foundation, I want to turn this over to Vasu, who can provide some more value on this process.
Awesome. Let me share my screen, Brandon. So thank you, Brandon, for the 3 steps. So I'm just going to elaborate on those 3 steps. What exactly happens within those 3 steps? How much time is required to successfully complete these 3 steps so we can ultimately see how this AI is going to give you a transformational opportunity. I'm carefully using that word, transformational opportunity, because I don't want to paint the picture that this is incremental. Maybe this is a better way of saving the headcount cost of 1 or 2 people, which ChatGPT-like solutions are allowing some of the team members who are on the call. Maybe you might be playing with some of those types of things, but this is truly understanding the value of every subscriber going into future, and then how do we kind of use all of that foresight today to make decisions differently. So that's why I think the key is the transformational difference, not just incremental difference, right? So before we talk about like the 3 steps and the details, right? First, if we pause here and start talking about why enterprise AI projects might be struggling. This is a new way of doing things, right? The entire historical BI for decades and decades has always been how many customers did we get, like how much revenue did we get, by the time they cancel, like, what is their lifetime value and things like that. It was rarely about the future value of, the customers that you have, future risk of the customers that you have and things like that. So when we pause here and question why these projects might be struggling, like what MIT and Bain are saying, we actually went back into our own observations because we speak with hundreds of subscription businesses, and these are the patterns. Some of our people that we discussed with, they're asking, how do we ensure the timely launch? How do we manage the change? What data is needed? How do you build a business case? Where do you start? Among all the channels you have, or maybe among all the use cases that you have, right? If you think of all of this, there are a ton of questions. Now we categorized all of them into 2 categories, and it's not about technology. Now this is, if you take AI for granted, right? You will get new technology, new tools and all of that, but we still need to address these execution challenges or collaboration challenges, right? If we don't do these kinds of things, then it is what Bain was saying or MIT report was saying. I think, we all have like this laptop proof of concept. Yes, everything looks fancy, but when you take it to operations, I think that is where things are falling apart. At least that is what the study was identifying. And we recognized all these things, with our 10 plus years of experience. And we are categorizing this into either execution challenges and collaboration challenges. Now, if we have this insight, the question to ask now is, how do we avoid that, right? And we constructed a 3-step process to make sure that, those scenarios are all clearly addressed by adding a pre-planning step, and then do the modeling and all of that, and then do the executive readout. These are the 3 steps that we are including in the trial. And then, of course, operations and scaling and all those other things. There are a bunch of details within each of them. What I wanted to highlight is, what do we do really in the pre-planning stage? What do we do in the actual trial stage? And what do we do during the execution readout stage? So you can make informed decisions, right? So we are also including the time commitment in the pre-planning. It's really a couple of hours, and also executive readout, it's a couple of hours. Everything that happens within the 4-week trial is largely led by Wazik team. They know how to integrate the data. They know how to do the models and all of that. Your time commitment might be, maybe an hour or hour and a half of your data analyst. We typically don't even need the executive team for that, right? So let's go into the details of each of them, right? So step 1, pre-planning. Both the studies, McKinsey studies and the Bain study, are saying, by the way, the success of these projects depend on how do you bring the stakeholders, how do you explain the value proposition, how do you set expectations with everyone? Otherwise, marketing team has their own plan, operations team has their own plan, call center has their own plan, finance has their own plan. They're all probably looking at like AI solutions on all of them, but no one is bringing all of them to one table and talking about a centralized AI strategic plan and develop some sort of roadmap, right? So what we are going to be doing before we touch the data, before we start working on the models and all of that, we feel this step is such a critical one. Why? Because it brings the key stakeholders together. And we use that opportunity on the same table to explain our success stories, explain what led to what, explain, and also understand a little bit about your data setup, your use cases, what data sources you have, maybe some AI initiatives that you might have taken and all of that. And ultimately, this stage concludes with a clear roadmap for this is how the trial could look like, and this is post-trial could look like, and develop a high-level preliminary use case and a business case, value of that particular use case if we put AI into all of that, right? So that's the pre-planning step. How much time is needed for this? Typically, a couple of hours. We can do this virtually. I like to do this on-site, half a day visit. That type of thing is far more effective because everyone's attention is there, but it can also be handled virtually for a couple of hours, right? And then what happens really during the trial, right? So there's a graphic illustration here. During the pre-planning, we identify the data sources. No integrations, no IT requirement, all of that. We export certain data sources into cloud. And I'll give you an idea about what types of data sources are needed for the most effective trial. But the idea is what we have on the bottom left. It is all those predictions, right? These predictions are about who's likely to cancel, who's likely to buy, who's likely to upgrade. And then the second model is CLV model. This is predictive if we prevent that cancellation, how much value we can create, or essentially assigning a lifetime value for every single subscriber. If you have 100,000 subscribers, this is not like cohort level churn scores or cohort level value scores. This is literally, Brandon's risk is 40% likely cancel. Vasu's value is $2,000 of lifetime value from here into future, right? So that's the real AI that we are talking about. And one of the questions that we are hearing is because ChatGPT is so successful, because all these Google models and Facebook models and all these things are so successful these days, people are also asking, are these models same as ChatGPT model? The answer is a resounding no. And the reason for that is all these LLMs, the large language models and all of that, which is kind of more of the class of the ChatGPT and Google Gemini and all of that, they're good at doing some sort of automation for you, right? They're good at writing an email. They're good at summarizing a meeting. They're good at kind of providing a little bit of guidance to your agents, all of that. They're kind of working on the language, right? So the words and phrases and all of that, they're good at, kind of compiling summaries and things like that. What we are talking about is models that are created for your business specifically, by learning from your historical customers who purchased, who canceled, who converted into a sale, all of that. So these are specific models that are tailored. They have nothing to do with ChatGPT models and things like that. AI underlying foundation is exactly the same, but these models are not ChatGPT models. These models will score all your customers for risk and revenue opportunity that we are showing on the bottom left. But in order to do that, all the steps that we have on the top right, we will conduct a survival analysis. Those who purchased an enhanced plan versus a basic plan, how do they survive? What is their lifetime value? We also do a geo analysis. Those who are in the metro cities versus rural areas, how long they are surviving, how their cash flow patterns look like. If there are events, they complained, they filled a survey, they have like a device outage, they have someone showing up at their home to service. After that, what happened? We gather all of that type of data and do a time series study. So all those analytics will go into the models that we have. So that means like this is not like Wikipedia training, ChatGPT, kind of customization for your business. These are models that will be created using your data, trained on your historical data. And then when you see all of that, you will clearly see, oh my God, not every customer is canceling at a 20% predicted rate if your average attrition is 20%. Some might be canceling at 40%, and some might be canceling at 3%. If your sales conversion rate is, let's say, 10%, some might be converting at 30%, and some might be converting at like less than 1%, right? So these models will uncover all of that, which will allow us to do different things in a very proactive way, right? So the study includes all of this, including ideas about how do you segment your customers and how do you operationalize all of that, right? So pre-planning will set us up extremely well to identify the right data, right? Conduct all of this analysis, develop these predictive models, and then give you, executive-ready summaries of all of this type of thing. How those executive summaries would look like, they're very visual in nature. We prepared about 50 slides or so that are, almost like board ready. If you want to take some of these things into your 26 planning, maybe there is a upcoming board meeting coming up or a QBR coming up. These slides are prepared in a way that these are good for strategic transformation initiatives that will speak to the value of your customers today, the value of your customers tomorrow, if we reduce the attrition by, let's say, 200 basis points, or if we increase the sales conversion by 2% or 3%, or if we increase our upsells by X%, or even pricing, right? Not every customer is equal. There is price tolerance that is different from two different customers, and that is where this is vastly different from ChatGPT, what ChatGPT can do to scoring customers for churn propensity, price sensitivity, lead conversion propensity, all those types of things, right? So the executive summary will include a business case, how we arrived at the business case, and top insights that we are finding that look like, some of the examples that we are showing here, packaged again to bring all the, pre-planning stakeholders back on a table and reviewing all of this, right? So I'm going to spend 3 minutes showing how the outcome could look like. So Brandon, I guess you can see my browser now? Okay, awesome. So when we load all of your data, right, assuming you're a home services customer, the UI could look like literally showing the home. But if you're not home services, the UI could look slightly different. The main thing that I wanted to highlight, in this case, we are scoring for risk. Let's say the project is about churn reduction. I will focus on churn reduction. This system is identifying this customer as high risk, and it is assigning a value of $300 remaining lifetime value. Not the money that we extracted from this customer, but this customer with 80% likely attrition is only valued at $300. The next customer is labeled as a low-risk customer with 23% attrition, and the remaining lifetime value, or CLV, remaining customer lifetime value, is assigned as a $1,000 value, $300 to $1,000. Now, the cool thing here is the customer is not saying, I want to cancel. We're actually identifying the usage patterns, their calling patterns, the purchase patterns, their contract pattern, their payment pattern, right? Their geographic location, all of that is being leveraged to come to this conclusion and this conclusion. Now, this customer is still not yet saying, I want to cancel. So that means that gives us a proactive opportunity to reach out, give a meaningful offer to them, which is the real secret sauce for how do we make all of this work. So in this case, this is a high-risk customer. Clearly, it is highlighting why this customer is high risk. In this case, they're out of contract. They're probably paying a little above average. They were acquired through door-to-door, and they live in a high attrition area. And these are the bugs that are bothering them. This is a use case for, pest control. But this scenario can be customized to any telecom versus home security versus insurance versus something else. What I wanted to highlight is once we identify the risk and the reasons for the risk, right? That's already wonderful, right? Now, how do we act on it? Whether the customer is calling inbound or we decide to call outbound or we decide to send an email, we can leverage this type of insight, give them offers that look like this, lock the price for the next 12 months. Believe it or not, a lot of customers with all these price increases, all of that, they're appreciating these types of offers, even if it is price lock. Let's say they rejected that. Now we have another offer, $10 off, if they sign up for a 2-year renewal, right? By the way, we are proactively presenting this, not in the last minute, not after they decided to switch to somebody else, and then we don't have a lot of retention opportunity. We can get proactive. Let's say they accepted this offer. Now we saved that customer. The chances of cancellation is very low. We are submitting this to the engine. Now the engine is learning over and over about which customers are taking which types of offers. So I want to emphasize this idea that we can score customers predictions, right? Predict what is likely to happen and then prescribe what needs to be done to retain that customer. The same idea can be replicated to predict who is likely to convert in a sales scenario and prescribe what is the right offer to them. This prediction prescription combination is what is possible. So I want to leave all of you with this big idea that when we think about subscription level AI, the AI that we are talking about is not the language modeling AI, ChatGPT, that are usually the typical use case is a little bit of cost reduction and automation. Here, the reason why we were kind of labeling this as transformative is because we can score every customer and because we can get proactive in retaining them, in price increasing them, in upgrading them, in converting our sales and so on and so forth, right? So that's the bigger idea. Now, what type of data is needed to implement all of this, right? So we are trying to keep all of that simple because we work with hundreds of companies. We know where the predictive power is. In the beginning, our objective is to say that not every customer is equal. Their churn scores, their sales scores, their price tolerance scores are all vastly different. In order to do that, basic data like what we are showing, when did the customer start, how much they are paying, how they're paying, credit card versus ACH, there is a difference. Where they live, right? Geography also has a difference. How did we acquire them? And any other attributes, if you have satisfaction surveys or if you have like a trouble, ticketing system, any other, simple data sources like that. But this type of core data, that means like, someone who's kind of either compiling your how many customers do we have from sales point of view or how many cancels we had from cancellation point of view. As long as we have access to those types of data analysts, we should be able to pull this data, export this data without any IT integrations or disruptions, and then produce the type of insight that I was talking about, right? So that's the idea that I wanted to kind of highlight. Now to recap, 0 to AI in 4 weeks, is that possible? Absolutely possible. From the right pre-planning by bringing the right resources, and then 4 weeks of WASIC implementing the models for you. They're your custom models. They're not leveraged models from anything else. And then systematically reviewing all these insights and opportunities and business cases back with your executive team so you can all make a very informed decision based on real insights that are already identified. The remaining step is, of course, operationalization using the scenario that I showed, some proactive touch points through call centers or email marketing or SMS or so on and so forth, right? So that's the idea that I'm super excited about. What is the real difference between the MIT study that says 95% are failing, 5% are succeeding? Even their conclusion is the 5% who are succeeding are systematically going through a process like this, which is also what Bain is saying. It's not the hard part is not the modeling, but it is about how you bring the people together, how you identify the business cases, how do you develop the operational plan, all of that. I am delighted to say all of this is being packaged within a 4-week window, less than a month, that will be executive ready. With that, Brandon, I will pass it to you.
Well, if you're an executive who owns the retention metric within your organization, that you're having headaches because the board meeting's coming up and you're having a difficult time explaining the churn that is happening within your organization, that you're unsure why customers are leaving, and you're not sure where to start in order to move the needle to improve churn, if you are having the same concern when it comes to doing price increases within your organization, if you are receiving pressure to figure out a way to use AI within your organization, we can help solve that problem. We can take that pain away by doing this 4-week trial to show you what can be done with your data and what the power of predictive modeling and machine learning and artificial intelligence can bring to your organization to take data, to turn into intelligence, to then be able to operationalize that data on your front lines. The example here, depending upon your use case, whether you're trying to get customers and to use that intelligence for getting more customers, if you're trying to keep your customers, or if you're trying to grow your existing recurring revenue stream, we have a solution for you. And it's not just the model, it's having a team that knows how to be able to help implement that change management within your organization. This 4-week trial will give you an opportunity to see what's within your data and how our predictive models will tell you how to move forward, to give you an executive readout that can help you have confidence that there will be a return on investment, and to give you the information and ammunition you need to be able to go to your CFO or to your board of directors to say, here's what we can do and how it will make a difference within our organization. We can help provide referrals to some of our existing partners that can tell you how this has changed the trajectory of their enterprise valuation and give you the confidence to take this a step forward in implementing AI within your organization. If you're interested in learning more and setting up this 4-week trial within your organization, feel free to email us at info@vosik.ai. I think most of the people here on the call, I've reached out and connected to you on LinkedIn, or at least send an invitation. Be happy to chat with you there or set up a call. We want to be able to help you, and we know that we've got a solution that works. And this 4-week trial will give you the confidence that this will work within your organization as well. We thank everyone for your time for this half-hour webinar today, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you, everyone.